talk about happier news here. My favourite royal, Prince Louis, is making headlines again. He had another not just a cute moment.
The Princess of Wales have rolled up their sleeves to give back to UK communities following King Charles's coronation. Joined by their children, it marked an important milestone for Prince Louis in particular.
During a playful visit to Queen Camilla's lavish mansion, young Prince Louis stumbled upon something so strange, so unexpected, that it sent whispers rippling through royal halls. What began as innocent curiosity turned into a jaw-dropping discovery hidden deep within the estate, something no one thought he'd ever find. Was it a secret from the past? A royal relic tucked away for decades? Or something far more mysterious? Whatever it was, it left even the palace staff stunned. What Prince Louis uncovered will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. The mansion whispers. Hidden deep within the British countryside, away from prying eyes and tourist cameras, sits one of the most under-discussed royal properties, Queen Camilla's private estate, the Ray Mill House. It's not just another lavish residence. This place has a presence. Locals call it the Whispering House. Not because it talks, but because people lower their voices when they speak about it. Massive gates, towering hedges, and tight-lipped staff have shielded the mansion from public curiosity for years. It's never been the center of official royal tours. It rarely, if ever, appears in palace press releases. So why does this estate spark such nervous glances among insiders? Why do some former staff speak of rooms you weren't allowed to clean, or doors that didn't lead where they should? And now, enter Prince Louis. Just 5 years old, playful, lively, and blissfully unaware of the hush that surrounds Queen Camilla's home. A place that even the grown-ups treat with uneasy respect. The royal family had gathered for a quiet weekend retreat. Charles, Camilla, a few aides, and the younger royals. A supposedly uneventful getaway, or so it seemed. But something about that weekend was off. Camilla, by many accounts, seemed tense, distracted, always watching the time, always peeking toward the East Wing. A place guests were told to avoid. Repairs, they said. Structural weakness. Nothing to see. But wasn't that wing already under renovation 2 years ago? Prince Louis didn't care for protocols. He didn't understand off-limits the way adults do. With his curious mind and playful spirit, he slipped away while the adults were entertained in the drawing room. A game of hide-and-seek gone astray? Maybe. Or maybe something was quietly guiding him toward what he was about to find. Now, here's where the story takes its first real turn. Several staff members later reported feeling unusually cold drafts that weekend. One even claimed the chandeliers flickered, only in the East Corridor. Another mentioned hearing footsteps, light ones, as if a child were walking just a few seconds ahead. But no child was there. So what really happened? Why did Queen Camilla abruptly leave the gathering mid-conversation, without explanation, and whisper sharply into a guard's ear? And why, moments later, were 2 royal aides seen racing down the eastern hallway with visible panic on their faces? We may never know the full truth, but we do know this. Something about Prince Louis's innocent wandering sent shockwaves through that mansion. A silence fell over the estate that no one could explain, one that lingered long after the family left. Could it be that Louis found something no one was meant to see? Did his tiny footsteps unlock something that had been buried, literally, for decades? And if so, was it by chance or by design? Keep watching. Royal Protocols and Forbidden Rooms. The British royal family is a machine of tradition. Every gesture, every glance, every silence, calculated. Behind the grandeur of crowns and carriages lies a rigid framework of unspoken rules, passed down through generations. Most of these customs never make the news, but within palace walls, they dictate everything, from who enters which room to what questions can be asked, and which doors stay closed forever. At Queen Camilla's estate, those rules tighten even further. Unlike Buckingham Palace, with its rows of uniformed guards and public-facing role, this estate breathes privacy. In fact, it thrives on it. Visitors, even family, are often briefed on certain areas deemed off-limits. No explanations are given. You're expected to obey. No one asks why a hallway is suddenly sealed off, or why certain rooms haven't been entered in years. And those who work there quickly learn not to question the house's rhythm, or its silence. It's said that even seasoned aides tread carefully when Camilla is present. Her gaze, icy and unreadable, is enough to keep questions buried. Rumors have swirled that she personally oversaw modifications to parts of the mansion shortly after marrying Charles. Some believe she had certain chambers remodeled, or perhaps repurposed, for reasons still unknown. Nothing illegal, of course, but odd. Even within the royal family, there are boundaries. Not everyone is entitled to know everything, and no one, not even a prince, is permitted to wander without consequence. Yet on that weekend, Prince Louis did. Which raises an interesting question. Why were protocols seemingly ignored? A child as young as Louis would typically be under strict supervision, yet that day he slipped away. Some speculate that a lapse in security allowed it. Others quietly wonder, was it really a lapse? Because according to whispers from someone who claimed to have served briefly at the estate, the East Wing has been more than just under renovation. It's been monitored, silently, obsessively, guarded without appearing guarded. One former staff member even referred to it as the Shadow Wing, a place that never appeared on official floor plans, a place rumored to house objects too sensitive to be seen or too dangerous to be remembered. Now imagine a 5-year-old prince, innocent and unaware, toddling his way past velvet ropes and ancient portraits, drawn in by a hallway that no one else is allowed to walk. Did someone let it happen? Was something supposed to be found? You see, the royal family doesn't deal in accidents. Every photo op, every handshake, it's all rehearsed. But what if, just this once, something slipped? There's been chatter in certain circles that Queen Camilla herself may have been aware of what lay hidden in that East Wing, perhaps even deeply involved in keeping it concealed. Why? That remains a matter of speculation. Some say it's tied to family history. Old letters, perhaps. Others whisper about artifacts too controversial to be publicly linked to the crown. And then there's the mention of Diana. Always Diana. The public's memory of Princess Diana still casts a long shadow over the monarchy. Could Camilla have tucked away something from that chapter of history? Something she thought would never resurface?
From being a vilified royal mistress to the woman who will now shape the future of the monarchy, Camilla Parker Bowles.
Whatever it was, Louis wandered into a place protected by decades of silence. And when Camilla found out, she didn't panic. She acted, swiftly. Guards moved. Rooms were locked. The hallway where Louis had ventured was immediately restricted again, and staff were asked to sign urgent confidentiality extensions. But the damage was already done. He had seen something. And someone, perhaps even within the royal circle, knew it couldn't be ignored any longer. But what did Queen Camilla know about the East Wing's secrets? And why the sudden lockdown? Stay glued to your screen. The child who knew too much. Prince Louis may be young, but sometimes it takes only a child to unravel what adults have spent decades trying to bury. It all began with a game of hide and seek. The adults were deep in conversation over afternoon tea. The older royals lounged under the garden canopy, discussing matters of protocol and history. And Prince Louis, with his boundless curiosity and playful spirit, wandered off, quietly, innocently, into the part of Queen Camilla's mansion where few dared to step, the East Wing. Unlike the rest of the estate, the East Wing carried a weight. an eerie stillness that seemed to press against the walls. The wallpaper was yellowed and untouched, the carpets worn thin by time rather than footsteps. At the very end of the hallway stood a plain wooden door. No royal crest, no gleaming gold handle, just forgotten. Louis nudged it open. Inside was a study cloaked in dust and silence. Faded portraits watched from the walls, and thick curtains barely let the light through. But one thing stood out: a large, mismatched bookcase. He tugged on one of the books. With a groan, the shelf shifted sideways, revealing a narrow stone passage behind it. The air inside was colder. Moments later, a butler entered the wing, likely looking for the young prince. When he saw the open passage, he froze. In all his years of royal service, he had never encountered anything like this. Without a word, he scooped Louis up and rushed him out of the room, his face pale and unreadable. But what happened next shook the very foundation of the household. Later that evening, as the estate grew unnaturally quiet, the butler stepped outside and made a phone call. Who he called remains unclear. Some believe it was a senior royal aide. Others suspect someone beyond the crown's reach. But what's certain is this: someone acted on that call. Within hours, 2 unmarked vehicles arrived. Quietly, discreetly. Their occupants were not palace staff. They wore no uniforms. They carried no emblems. They moved with practiced urgency, slipping through the side entrance and heading straight for the east wing. Inside the hidden passage, they found a tunnel. Thick with dust, heavy with age. Ancient trunks lay piled beneath cobwebs. Some were filled with photographs, others with handwritten letters. But one name appeared repeatedly: Diana. Among the documents was a sealed metal box. Whispers say it contained jewelry not currently in the royal collection, possibly linked to Diana's estate. There were also tapes, faded, unmarked, and packed away as if someone had wanted them forgotten. The contents remain undisclosed, but the term "deeply personal" was used by more than one insider. Why was Camilla's estate chosen as the hiding place? That question opened a deeper wound. Since joining the royal family, Camilla has been trailed by controversy. From her early relationship with Charles during his marriage to Diana, to her eventual rise from Duchess of Cornwall to Queen, public opinion has remained deeply divided. Many still view her as the woman who came between Charles and Diana. Others have never fully accepted her role, despite years of philanthropic work and increased public visibility. The discovery beneath her home has reignited those debates. Was this an innocent archive? A private collection of painful memories? Or something else entirely? Louis has since been kept out of the public eye, shielded from the buzz. But among those who were there that night, one truth remains. Whatever he found wasn't meant to be found. And now that it has, the story of Queen Camilla and the legacy of Diana may never be seen the same way again. The revelation in the hidden chamber. The bookcase had revealed more than a passage. It had exposed a wound stitched shut for decades. As the dark-suited investigators ventured into the tunnel hidden behind Queen Camilla's study, the air grew damp, thick with the scent of stone and forgotten time. Their boots echoed off the narrow stone walls, passing symbols etched faintly into the aging brickwork, patterns too deliberate to be dismissed as accidental. It was no longer just a hidden corridor. It was a vault of history. Near the tunnel's end, beneath a faded rug pinned to the stone floor, a handle had been bolted into a slab. One agent, upon pulling it back, exposed a metal grate that opened to a descending stairwell. The silence deepened with every step. They were now far beneath the estate's foundations, deeper than any known section of the floor plan. The space they entered was dimly lit by the agent's flashlights, flickering across sealed boxes, aged trunks, and a large, lockable metal chest that stood in the center like a centerpiece in a forgotten ritual. Inside the trunks, they uncovered bundles of yellowing papers and weathered folders, some stamped confidential in bold ink. Others bore crests and seals associated with historic royal correspondence. But the real shock came when they opened one of the larger chests. Inside were letters, handwritten in a hurried scrawl. Several of them signed or referenced by name, Diana. Some of the letters expressed deep personal thoughts, fear, isolation, and concern. One in particular hinted at being followed. Another warned of a planned accident, eerily dated just months before her untimely death. None of this had ever been officially documented before, and if these were authentic, it would explain why they'd been buried here, literally. Photographs, too, were found, black and white portraits of Diana, Charles, and the boys, some clearly candid, others possibly never seen by the public. But the most curious images were of unfamiliar individuals, people in regal attire from other royal households around the globe. Some wore expressions that seemed somber, tense. Some bore markings on the back, initials, foreign addresses, or simply the word confidential stamped in red. Then came the jewelry. Among the documents was a collection of antique accessories, rings, pendants, and a brooch unmistakably traced to the Spencer family but missing from the official royal registry. Some pieces were believed to have disappeared after Diana's death, sparking speculation that they had either been stolen or deliberately hidden. Why they were beneath Camilla's estate was a question no one dared answer directly. The metal box was the last to be opened. Inside were old cassette tapes, audio recordings carefully labeled with names, dates, and cryptic titles. According to one close source, these tapes contained voice notes from Diana herself. Some were casual, reflective, but others hinted at threats, power struggles, and conversations with people in high positions. One tape in particular mentioned the consequences of speaking out and the risk of being silenced. As the agents sifted through the documents, a sealed envelope caught their attention. It was addressed simply, "To be opened if anything happens to me." The handwriting was unmistakably Diana's. One agent reportedly froze, holding it in gloved hands as the others gathered silently around. They didn't open it there. Not yet. It was secured and sealed again, packed carefully with the rest of the materials, and tagged for further examination. Perhaps the most haunting discovery was the wall itself, adorned with faded photographs of royal families from across the world, including Diana, Charles, William, and Harry. The wall seemed to form a gallery of history or surveillance. Some of the images had markings on them: dates, circles, crosses. Whatever purpose they once served, their arrangement suggested something far more intentional than simple remembrance. The entire chamber felt curated, organized chaos, buried to stay hidden. By morning, the estate was under total lockdown. No statements were released, no acknowledgments from the palace. But those who were there that night described the energy afterward as unsettling, as if the estate itself had exhaled something it had been holding for far too long. And whatever truth had emerged from beneath Queen Camilla's mansion, it was no longer just rumor. The palace reaction. By dawn, the estate had returned to its polished stillness. But something had changed. Word of the discovery never reached the headlines. No press release, no palace statement, just a tightening of lips and a sudden flurry of activity behind closed doors. Camilla didn't cancel appearances. King Charles made no remarks. But insiders claim palace aides were working round the clock, ushered into late-night meetings and crisis briefings marked private. One staffer allegedly described the atmosphere inside Clarence House as heavier than usual, with aides walking on eggshells and communication flowing through tightly controlled channels. Some believe only a handful of senior royals were made fully aware of what had been found beneath the estate. Others speculate the discovery was so delicate, so controversial, that even certain members of the family were deliberately left in the dark. The royal press team, known for their swift and measured responses, remained unusually quiet. No denial, no comment. Just silence. Strategic, perhaps, or maybe uncertain. Was the monarchy scrambling to contain something that could shake its carefully preserved legacy? Or was it simply choosing to ignore whispers it hoped would fade on their own? Interestingly, Camilla herself appeared unaffected in public. She smiled, waved, and carried out royal duties as if nothing had happened. But palace watchers were quick to note subtle shifts. A sudden change in her inner circle, a rumored increase in private security, and, most curious of all, a brief but intense phone call captured by paparazzi. The footage showed her speaking rapidly, brows furrowed, and then vanishing behind a closed car door. Was it related? No one could confirm. There were also whispers that the items discovered had been moved under special custody, not by police, but by an independent advisory group tied to historic royal archives. The question is, if the materials were merely old letters and jewelry, why such extreme discretion? Some believe the monarchy's silence speaks louder than any denial ever could. Others argue the entire matter is nothing more than an exaggerated tale wrapped in shadows and speculation. But among royal watchers, one thing is clear. Something happened inside that estate. And whether the truth surfaces tomorrow or 10 years from now, the palace may never view that house, or that child, the same way again. But what if the monarchy's silence is actually a quiet confession of something bigger? Stay glued to your screen. A legacy rewritten? The discovery beneath Queen Camilla's estate didn't make front-page news. There were no flashing headlines or televised addresses, but for those who knew what was found or even whispered about it, there's a growing sense that something irreversible has occurred. Royal history is not just preserved in museums or written in biographies. It's guarded, tightly, carefully, behind centuries of tradition. And sometimes, the most powerful truths are the ones hidden in silence. The items recovered from that underground chamber, whether handwritten letters, mysterious photographs, or jewelry that vanished after Diana's death, have stirred more than just curiosity. They've reignited conversations the palace had worked hard to move past. Whispers of betrayal, loss, control, and a legacy that perhaps isn't as polished as it appears in public. While there's no official confirmation of what those documents contained, insiders claim that names of public figures, secret correspondences, and even references to Diana's fears were among the contents. If true, this discovery may be one of the most controversial moments to quietly shake the monarchy in decades. And yet, nothing has been confirmed. That's the royal way. Dignified silence. Still, the silence itself speaks volumes. In the midst of it all stands Prince Louis, oblivious to the chain of events he set into motion. A child, playing in a forbidden hallway, may have brushed against history in a way no one expected. He may not understand what he saw, but the adults around him certainly do. Whether this discovery fades into obscurity or resurfaces years from now, it has already done one thing: reminded the world that beneath the crown, behind the palace walls, are stories still untold and secrets still buried. For the monarchy, it's another quiet storm. But for royal watchers, it's the kind of mystery that refuses to stay hidden. So, was it just a child's innocent game gone too far, or the start of something the palace never wanted us to see? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe for more royal mysteries that keep us guessing.